I never thought one night could break a man the way that night broke me. I had always believed that marriage meant something solid, something real, something you could lean on even when life hit you from every angle. I wasn't rich, I wasn't special, and I wasn't the kind of guy who filled every room with energy, but I was loyal. I believed loyalty was enough. Maybe that was my biggest mistake. My wife, Emily, used to tell me that I was the kind of man who made the world feel safe. She used to say it like it was the biggest compliment she could give anyone. I didn't know back then that safe was just another word she used when she was bored, when she wanted something more exciting, more dangerous, something that didn't look like the quiet man who adored her. I guess safety wasn't enough for her anymore. The night everything fell apart started the same way every normal night starts. I came home from work, tired but happy, because that night we were supposed to go to my friend Jason's birthday party. Jason and I had been friends since high school. He wasn't the perfect guy, not even close, but he was the guy who always said yes to adventure. The kind of guy who jumped off rooftops into swimming pools just because he felt like it. Emily always thought he was fun, maybe too fun, but she laughed extra loud whenever he talked. I used to think it was harmless. I walked into our home and found Emily standing near the kitchen counter, fixing her makeup. She looked beautiful, almost too beautiful for a simple birthday gathering. She had on a black dress that I had never seen before, and heels that made her look taller, sharper, like someone I didn't completely recognize. "You look amazing," I said, kissing her cheek. She nodded casually, barely smiling. "It's Jason's birthday. He likes it when people show up looking good." I didn't think anything of it then. I should have. On the way to the party, she kept checking her phone. Every few minutes the screen lit up, and each time she angled it away from me. I tried not to notice, but you can't ignore how your wife holds her phone like she's guarding a secret. I asked her once who was texting, and she simply said, "Just friends. Nothing more. No explanation. No warmth." When we got to the party, Jason was already there, surrounded by people, laughing, shouting, living louder than everyone else. When he saw Emily, his eyes lit up in a way that made my chest tighten. He hugged her longer than he hugged me. I told myself it was just the alcohol. I told myself everything harmless I could think of. The night went on, music playing loud, drinks flowing, people dancing, memories being made that I didn't know would haunt me later. Emily drifted away from me slowly, like the tide pulling back from the shore. At first, she stayed close, standing next to me, laughing at the jokes people made. But soon she was across the room with Jason, leaning against the bar, talking quietly with him like they had their own little world where I wasn't invited. Every time I looked over, Jason was leaning a little closer. Every time she smiled, something inside me twisted. But I kept telling myself that I was overthinking, that Jason was my friend, that Emily was my wife, that betrayal wasn't something people like them did. But people like them do. I stepped outside for air at one point because something in my chest felt tight, like my lungs couldn't expand anymore. I didn't know if it was the drink or the room or the way Emily hadn't looked at me once in the last 10 minutes. I stood outside under the night sky, breathing slowly, telling myself it was fine. That was when I got the first painful sign. A message popped onto my phone. It was from an unknown number. "She's not who you think is." I stared at it, confused, angry, scared, all at the same time. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. I walked back inside, trying to shake it off. But when I didn't see Emily anywhere, my stomach dropped. I asked a few people if they had seen her. One person shrugged. Another pointed toward the hallway near the back rooms. My legs felt heavy as I walked down that hallway, every step sounding louder in my head than the music outside. Halfway down, I heard something. A laugh. Emily's laugh. A soft whisper, Jason's voice. A door clicking shut.
I don't know how long I stood there staring at that closed door, stuck between opening it and pretending I heard nothing. I chose wrong. I chose to walk away. I didn't want to believe what I knew was true. I walked back into the crowded room, pretending everything was fine. 10 minutes later, she appeared beside me like nothing had happened. She said she had been in the bathroom. Jason came out of the same hallway seconds later, adjusting his shirt. I laughed at something someone said just to keep myself from breaking. We left the party early because I wasn't feeling well. On the way home, Emily kept asking if I was okay, but her voice sounded wrong, like she was acting. I told her I was fine. I wasn't. When we got home, I showered, hoping the water would wash away whatever heaviness I felt. It didn't. I went to bed early. Emily stayed up late. I heard her talking quietly on the phone in the living room. I couldn't hear the words, just the sound of her voice. Soft, warm, the kind of tone she hadn't used for me in a long time. The next morning I woke up sick. Not just tired, sick. My throat burned, my head felt like it was filled with fire, and my whole body shook with chills. Emily walked into the room, looked at me, and sighed like I was inconveniencing her. "You'll be fine," she said. "Just rest." But she didn't stay. She didn't bring medicine. She didn't call to check on me. Instead, she dressed up again, nicer than usual for a casual day. She grabbed her purse and stood at the door. "I'm going out with a friend," she said, without naming who. "I'll be back later." I was too weak to argue, too weak to even lift my head. All I could do was lie there in bed, staring at the ceiling while my chest tightened and my skin burned. I must have fallen asleep because when I woke up, it was dark outside. Emily still wasn't home. Her phone was lying on the nightstand. Maybe she forgot it. Maybe that was her biggest mistake. A message flashed onto her screen. "Can't wait until you're mine completely." My heart stopped. The sender's name was Jason. My fingers went numb as everything inside me cracked open. Every doubt, every fear, every moment I tried to ignore became a sharp truth cutting straight through me. I opened the message thread, and the words I saw didn't just hurt, they destroyed something deep inside that I didn't know could break. Messages from weeks ago, messages from nights she said she was running errands, photos, promises. Conversations about me, about how he'll never know, about how I deserve someone exciting, about how he's good but he's not enough. By the time Emily came home, I wasn't even angry. I was empty. She walked in smiling until she saw me holding her phone. Then her smile fell apart. Everything that happened after that came fast, too fast. She didn't apologize. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just said words I'll never forget. It just happened. Jason makes me feel alive. I can't keep living like this. I'm leaving. And she did. She packed a bag while I lay there sick, burning up, shaking so hard the bed trembled. She kissed my forehead like she was comforting a child, whispered, "You'll be okay," and walked out the door.
When Emily walked out that night, something inside me collapsed in a way I can't fully explain. It wasn't just heartbreak, and it wasn't just betrayal. It was the realization that the person I built my life around had already left me long before she physically walked out the door. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, too weak to sit up, too broken to sleep, and too stunned to even cry. My body burned with fever, but the coldness inside me was worse than anything I had ever felt. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time became the strange floating thing that didn't move the way it used to. I could hear the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, and even my own uneven breathing. Every sound felt louder than it should have been. The house felt empty, but not the peaceful kind of empty. It felt like someone had sucked the air out of it and left behind nothing but silence. I don't know when I finally managed to pull myself out of bed, but I remember the room spinning when I tried to stand. My legs shook, my vision blurred, but I forced myself onto my feet. I needed water. I needed air. I needed something that didn't hurt. When I stepped into the living room, I saw something that made my stomach twist even harder. On the couch, half covered by a blanket, was the jacket Emily had worn earlier. It wasn't just a jacket, it was Jason's. I recognized it instantly. The color, the smell, everything about it screamed his presence. She didn't even bother hiding it. She left it there like she knew I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I stared at it for a long time, trying to understand how something so small could hurt that much. But betrayal doesn't hit all at once. It hits in pieces, each one cutting deeper than the last. I crawled into the bathroom and splashed water on my face. My reflection looked like someone I didn't recognize. My eyes were dull, my skin pale, and I looked like I'd aged 10 years in one night. I leaned on the sink, gripping the cold porcelain just to stay standing. My chest felt tight, and for a moment I wondered if heartbreak could actually kill a person. When morning came, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand, scrolling through the messages again, punishing myself even though I knew I shouldn't. Every sentence between Emily and Jason felt like another punch to the gut. They joked about me. They planned things behind my back. They shared secrets, laughter, moments, things I thought only belonged to us. But the worst part wasn't the cheating. The worst part was realizing she was gone emotionally long before I ever noticed. All those nights she stayed late at work, all those sudden errands, all those arguments about me being too predictable, too safe. I thought they were normal. I thought every couple went through rough patches. I didn't know she had already built an escape route with someone else. By noon, the fever got worse. I could barely breathe through the tightening in my chest. Every time I tried to take a deep breath, it felt like knives were slicing through my ribs. My head throbbed and my throat felt like it was on fire. I needed help, but I didn't want to call anyone. I didn't want anyone seeing me like this, sick, broken, abandoned. But the truth was, I had no choice. I grabbed my phone and called the only neighbor who had ever been kind to us, a middle-aged woman named Karen. She answered on the third ring, and the moment she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. She rushed over in minutes, looked at me, and gasped. "You need to go to the hospital," she said. I shook my head. I couldn't leave. What if Emily came back? What if I left and she used it as an excuse to disappear forever? But she already did. Karen didn't argue. She called for help anyway. I remember being lifted onto a stretcher, the flashing lights, voices telling me to breathe slowly, the sound of sirens in the distance, everything blurred together like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. At the hospital, they ran tests, took my temperature, monitored my breathing. The doctor told me I had a severe respiratory infection and dangerously high fever. They asked if someone could come stay with me, but I just shook my head. "My wife left me" was the only sentence I could think, but I didn't have the strength to say it out loud. They kept me overnight. I stared at the ceiling and thought about Emily. I wondered if she even cared that I was gone. I wondered if she was with Jason, laughing, living, forgetting me like I was nothing more than a chapter in her life she was done reading. When I was discharged 2 days later, I returned to a home that felt like a crime scene. Not because of what happened, but because of what was missing. Her shoes were gone from the hallway. Her clothes were gone from the closet. Her half of the dresser was empty. She didn't leave a note. She didn't leave a message. She didn't leave anything except memories I didn't want anymore. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. The next blow came in the form of a call from Jason's girlfriend, Lily. I had met her a few times at gatherings. She seemed sweet, quiet,
Kind of girl who trusted too easily. When she called, her voice cracked before she even said my name. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know who else to talk to." She told me she found messages, too. She told me she suspected something, but she didn't want to believe it. She told me Jason packed a bag and disappeared 2 nights ago, the same night Emily left me. "He left me just like she left you," she said. "They're together." Hearing the words felt like someone driving a nail through my chest. I knew it already, but hearing it spoken out loud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. Lily and I sat in silence for a long time. We didn't need to speak. Our pain said enough. Days turned into weeks. I tried to move on, tried to heal, but memories clung to me like shadows. Every room in the house reminded me of her. Every sound made me think she was coming back. I couldn't eat properly, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. I replayed every moment of our marriage, looking for the cracks I should have noticed. I blamed myself for not being enough, even though deep down I knew her betrayal wasn't about me. It was about her own emptiness. But pain has a strange way of pushing a person toward clarity. One night, about 3 weeks after she left, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick it up. It was Emily. Her voice sounded guilty, shaky, like someone who wasn't sure she made the right choice. "How are you?" she asked. "How am I?" I was broken, empty, lost. But I didn't say any of that. "I'm alive," I replied. There was a long pause. "I didn't call to fight," she whispered. I wanted to check on me. After destroying me, after leaving me sick in bed, after running off with Jason without a second thought. I didn't yell, I didn't curse, I didn't cry. Something inside me had already died, and what remained wasn't anger, it was clarity. "Emily," I said quietly, "you made your choice." She started crying softly. I listened, not because I cared, but because it finally felt like the power wasn't in her hands anymore. "I don't know if I did the right thing," she said. "Jason isn't who I thought he was." Of course he wasn't. Men like him never are. But her regret didn't matter now. She broke something that couldn't be fixed. Before she could say anything else, I told her the last words I ever said to her. "You didn't just lose me. You lost the version of me that loved you." And then I ended the call. And for the first time since she walked out, I breathed without pain.
After that final phone call with Emily, something inside me shifted. It wasn't healing, not yet, and it wasn't forgiveness. It was something quieter, something more honest. It was the moment I realized that the version of myself who spent every day waiting for her to come home no longer existed. I didn't know who I was becoming, but I knew I wasn't the man begging for answers anymore. The house still felt empty, but the emptiness didn't suffocate me like it used to. Instead, it felt like a blank page, and I didn't know what to write on it yet. Some days, the silence felt peaceful. Other days, it felt like a weight sitting on my chest. But at least now it was my silence, not something she created. One morning, about a month after she left, I found myself cleaning the house without really thinking about it. I threw away old receipts, clothes she forgot, makeup she left under the sink, even the photos of us on the living room shelf. Each item felt like a thread, and with every thread I cut, I felt a tiny piece of myself come back. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I just cleaned until the house looked like it belonged to someone else, someone new. But healing isn't a straight line. Some nights I still woke up sweating, hearing her voice in my dreams. Some mornings I reached for her out of habit, only to find the cold side of the bed waiting for me. Sometimes I caught myself wondering what she was doing, if she was happy, if she regretted anything. Those were the moments that hurt the most, not because I missed her, but because betrayal leaves scars that don't disappear just because you want them to. One night, I was sitting alone on the couch when my phone rang. It was Lily again. She apologized for calling late, but her voice sounded scared, and I knew something was wrong. I didn't know who else to call. She said, "I thought you should know." I sat up straight. "What happened?" "It's Emily," she said softly. "She's not doing well." My heart clenched even though I told myself it shouldn't. "What do you mean?" "She and Jason. Things fell apart fast. He's been disappearing for days at a time. He drains her money. He yells a lot. She told me she doesn't feel safe." For a moment, the room felt like it was spinning. I didn't want to care. I didn't want to feel anything. But I did. Not because she deserved it, but because part of me still remembered the woman I fell in love with, even if that woman no longer existed. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because she's alone," Lily said. "And I think she thinks she made a mistake." Mistake. That word hit me differently this time. A mistake was forgetting your keys. A mistake was burning dinner. A mistake wasn't destroying someone who loved you. A mistake wasn't sleeping with your husband's closest friend. A mistake wasn't abandoning someone when they were sick. "Does she want to talk?" I asked, though I wasn't sure why. "No," Lily said. "I don't think she has the courage." That right there was the difference between us. I faced my pain head on. She ran from hers. She ran from everything. But the conversation left me restless. I walked around the house, pacing back and forth, staring at the walls, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. I didn't want her back, not anymore. But part of me still needed closure, real closure, not just the kind created by hanging up a phone. The next afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Emily. "Can we talk?" My first instinct was to delete the message, but something deeper inside me said no. Something inside me wanted answers the way wounds want air before they close. I replied with one word: when. She asked to meet at a quiet cafe, a neutral place. Not our home, not hers, somewhere in between. When I walked in and saw her sitting there, I felt nothing like I expected. I thought I would feel anger, heartbreak, maybe even longing. Instead, I just felt distance, like she was a stranger wearing the face of someone I used to love. She looked smaller, thinner, tired in ways I didn't remember. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook as she held her cup. When she saw me, she tried to smile, but it looked forced, like her face forgot how. "You look different," she said quietly. "So do you." There was a long, heavy pause. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. 2 words. 2 months late, 2 years too small for the damage she caused. "What are you sorry for?" I asked calmly. She swallowed. "Everything. The messages, the lying, leaving you that night.
I was selfish. I was stupid. I thought Jason was something he wasn't. I didn't say anything. I let her talk.
Walking out of that cafe felt like stepping into a different life. The moment the door closed behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Freedom. Not the loud kind, not the kind people celebrate. This was a quiet freedom, the kind that settles slowly into your bones and reminds you that you survived something you weren't sure you could. The kind that whispers, you're still here, and that's enough for now. I went home and stood in the doorway for a long time, looking at the place that used to hold memories of her. Now those memories felt like someone else's life. I didn't feel the same ache looking at the furniture, the walls, the bed. Instead, I felt a thin layer of relief, like the air had finally cleared after a long storm. The house wasn't haunted anymore. It was simply empty, and empty was better than broken. Over the next few days, I tried doing normal things again, simple things. I took walks, cooked meals, watched television without really paying attention. I tried going to sleep at a decent hour. Healing didn't come fast, but at least it was moving. Every day I woke up feeling a little less heavy, a little more normal, a little more like someone who had survived something instead of someone trapped inside it. But pain never disappears without leaving a mark. There were moments I still felt it, like when I passed a couple walking hand in hand, or when I heard a familiar song she used to play in the car, or when I woke up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who wasn't there. But those moments didn't break me anymore. They reminded me of where I had been, not where I was going. About a week after seeing Emily, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity won. It was Jason. For a moment, I didn't say a word. Hearing his voice felt unreal, like a ghost calling from somewhere far away. "Hey, man," he said awkwardly, his voice cracked, strained, nothing like the loud, confident friend I used to know. I guess you heard about everything?" "I heard enough," I replied. There was silence. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. "I'm not calling to fight," he continued. Look, I screwed up. I know that. I know I betrayed you. I know nothing I say matters now, but I'm sorry." I didn't respond immediately. I waited. I let him sit in his own guilt for a moment, because it was the first time he ever felt what he made me feel. "You didn't just betray me," I finally said. "You destroyed years of friendship. You took the one person I trusted the most and used her to feel better about yourself." He exhaled shakily. I know. I don't even recognize myself anymore. She and I were not together. It fell apart fast. Everything blew up in my face. Then he said something that made my jaw clench. "I miss our friendship, man." I didn't hear from Emily for almost 3 weeks after the custody hearing. Those 3 weeks felt like walking around with a weight on my chest. Something heavy and confusing. Something that made every quiet room feel too loud and every loud room feel too quiet. I was trying to rebuild myself piece by piece. I threw myself into work, kept my routine simple, and tried to make my home feel like it was mine again instead of a museum of old memories. Some days I did fine. Other days, I felt like a ghost drifting inside my own life. I made myself go out more, not with friends, not at parties, not anywhere noisy, just simple things. A walk around a crowded plaza, a long drive without direction, a seat at a cafe where nobody knew my name. I just wanted to be surrounded by people without having to talk to anyone. It was easier that way. Nobody asked questions. Nobody said, "I'm sorry." Nobody tried to fix me. Silence felt better than sympathy. One quiet evening, when the sky was turning dark and the streets were glowing with those soft yellow lights, my phone vibrated on the counter. I wasn't expecting anyone. I thought it might be a work email or some random notification. But when I picked it up, I froze. It was Emily. Her name on the screen hit me like something sharp, something cold, something I wasn't ready for. My first instinct was to ignore it. My second
was to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I just stared at it until the call ended on its own. 10 seconds later, a text came through. "Can we talk? Please, just talk." I didn't reply. I put the phone face down and walked away. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I made dinner, but barely ate. I sat on the couch, but couldn't pay attention to anything. My mind kept replaying her message over and over, the way her pleas felt heavier than a normal word. Later that night, I finally picked up the phone again. Another message had come in. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I need to tell you everything." I didn't owe her anything, not anymore. But some part of me, some part that still wanted answers, opened the door a crack. Not enough to let her in, just enough to look at the damage one last time. The next afternoon, I met her at a quiet park. Neutral ground. No memories attached to it. I sat on a bench under a tree, and she approached slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to walk up to me. She looked different. Not in the physical sense. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence she once carried had been drained out of her. She sat a few feet away, leaving a big empty space between us. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She took a deep breath. "I need to say something that I should have said a long time ago. I know I hurt you. Not just hurt you, I destroyed you. And I destroyed myself along the way, too." I kept my eyes on the open space in front of us. The trees, the walking path, a couple of kids laughing in the distance. Everything felt too peaceful for a conversation like this. I thought I wanted something new. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought I wanted to feel alive again. But it wasn't real. None of it was real. Mike wasn't real. The life I thought I wanted wasn't real. It fell apart so fast. I could hear her voice breaking, but I stayed quiet. "He left me," she whispered. "He walked out on me 2 weeks after the hearing. He said he didn't want the pressure. He said I was too emotional. He said I was too much."
Sympathy. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel victory. I felt nothing. It was almost scary how empty I felt. Maybe that was healing. Maybe that was exhaustion. She wiped her face. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see everything you did for me. Everything you gave up for me. Everything I destroyed." She looked down at her hands. "You were sick that night. Really sick. And I still left you. I still chose someone else. I still broke the one person who never gave up on me. I've never forgiven myself for that." The wind blew softly through the trees, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said it. "I want to come back home. I want to fix what I broke. I want to try, if you would ever let me." I closed my eyes for a few seconds, not because I needed to think, but because I already knew my answer. It was an answer that had taken months of pain to build, an answer shaped by sleepless nights, therapy sessions, long drives, empty dinners, and the slow process of stitching myself back together. When I opened my eyes, I didn't look at her. I looked straight ahead at the walking path. "Emily," I said slowly, "I needed you when I was at my lowest. I needed you when I couldn't stand. I needed you when I couldn't breathe. And you left. You didn't just leave, you ran towards someone else." She swallowed hard, gripping the bench. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm not the same man you walked away from. And I can't be the man you're hoping to come back to." She turned toward me, tears streaming down her face. So you're really not taking me back? I shook my head once. I'm finally choosing myself, I said. Something I should have done before you ever walked away. A long silence followed. She cried quietly, wiping her face with the edge of her sleeve. I didn't reach out. I didn't comfort her. I didn't hold her. That wasn't my job anymore. That's what she taught me the night she walked out the door. Eventually, she stood up. I'm sorry, she whispered one last time. For everything. She walked away slowly, like every step was heavier than the last. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. Her chapter in my life had ended long before this conversation. When she disappeared around the corner, I finally let out a deep breath. Not a sad one. Not a relieved one. Just a real one. A clean one. The kind that feels like air returning to your lungs after holding it for too long. I sat there for a while, listening to the wind, the footsteps of strangers, the simple sounds of a world that kept moving even when my life had fallen apart. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt something warm in my chest. Freedom. Not the dramatic kind, not the loud kind. Just the quiet freedom of knowing that I survived something that tried to break me. And I didn't let it define the rest of my life. I walked away from the bench with a steady step, not looking back once. Because some stories don't end with going back. Some stories end when you finally learn how to move forward.